Hello, Morgan.
Hello.
Hey, pal.
How's it
So
going?
good. We're live with an amazing group of exponential and abundance-minded individuals from around the planet, Brazil and India and Europe, Canada, and such. Where are you today? Argentina, Russia, Brazil again. Morgan, where are you this morning or this
I'm up
afternoon?
in Portland, Oregon,
Nice,
having a
it's
nice
beautiful.
sunny shelter in place today.
Yes, great. And I'm in Santa Monica. So let me just set the conversation here for everybody. I am pumped to share something that I've been working on in secret with Morgan and another friend, Eben Pagan, for God knows 3 years now. And and we're going to dive into this. And I've got the amazing Talia on the phone here, keeping track of your questions. And I'm going to set up this conversation, and then we're going to start going into your questions. But as you have questions, we're all jotting them down. My goal is to really dive in and lead this conversation to answer your questions once we have it. But thank you, everybody, for making time to join. So we're going to talk about the intersection of machine learning, AI, the crowd, and news. And let me first introduce Morgan McDermott, who's here with me. Morgan is a super Morgan is an AI for me, and a superhuman full stack coder who understands machine learning and neural nets and what does a full stack coder mean, Morgan? What are the skills that you've developed and pulled together here?
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, a full stack developer is someone who can develop front end applications such as a mobile app or a website. And a back end developer is someone who can, lay out the infrastructure and set up the databases and everything along those lines. And then a machine learning engineer is someone who can take models usually produced by a data scientist and kind of productionize them and get them up and running. So you can start running data through and making classifications, finding interesting news articles, for example. And then a data scientist is someone who can create machine learning models from a set of data that they collect from users or from whatever it is. And so I've spent the past literally over 10 years honing skills in each of these areas. So I'm super excited to work on this project because it sort of brings it all together, and the stuff we're doing is just incredibly fun.
Yeah. So let me any of you who get my blog, you know that my topic for today was on the subject of where do you get your news from? Can you trust your news source? Why do you give your brain over to the news media? And I jokingly call, CNN the crisis news network or the constantly negative news network. And I say I don't have a good acronym for Fox. Some people have given me a few ideas. I haven't hit the right one yet. But here's the deal. At the end of the day, the news media is saturating our brains with negative news. Right? Our brains evolved on the savannas of Africa. Humans came into existence about 5 million years ago, and we evolved, and we lived in a world of constant danger. It's just now that we're taking a break from survival, a break from danger. And so we lived in a world of constant danger, and if you missed a piece of food over there, too bad. You missed some danger, your genes were out of the gene pool, and you were dead. And so we developed an ancient piece of our temporal lobe called the amygdala that scans everything you see and everything you hear for negative news. And when you see it, you go on red alert. And you pay and I pay, we all pay 10 times more attention to negative news than positive news. And for that reason, if it bleeds, it leads is the saying. And if you pick up your newspaper tomorrow morning, if you get one, I don't, or if you turn on any news show, it's 10 to 1 negative news to positive news. And it's not that the news medias are masochists. It's that their business model is to deliver your eyeballs to their advertisers. And so if you're glued to the headlines that are saying death and dying, stock markets tanking, worst since the Great Depression, and so forth, their ratings go up and they are getting great advertisers. But is that doing you any kind of a service? And I would say no, for the couple of reasons. Number one, you're not getting a balanced view of all the news out there. You're getting the negative news 10 to 1, but you're also allowing all of this negativity into your mind, and your mindset matters. If you are constantly negative, then you're going to be just feel like it's hell in a handbasket. It sucks. I'm going to go get under the bed covers again. If you can see the incredible opportunities ahead, then you've got an abundance exponential mindset. And so 3 years ago, as I mentioned earlier, set out on a venture. The venture is called FutureLoop, to create a new platform to be able to bring news that is relevant and balanced and not in an echo chamber, and then allow that news also to create a community which are well-read to be able to make predictions about where the future is going. So it's called FutureLoop. You can go to futureloop.com. It's free. But I want to just talk about the idea of what is the kind of news that we want to be getting. What's kind of news that serves us in our world. So let's take a second and just talk about what you built in FutureLoop and how you built it, Morgan, and then we'll start going into some of the questions and then how we're making our predictions. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So what FutureLoop is it's a system that goes out and scrapes about 500,000 articles every single day. And it runs each of these articles through our entire machine learning pipeline. So it's going through looking for several key traits in each article that's ingested. So we look for, is this something that's going to impact the future? Is this something that is positive and abundance-minded, or is this something that's negative and clickbaity and sensationalist? We look for editorial quality as well. Is this something that's well written? And then we look for a degree of corroboration. So is this something where we're getting multiple sources saying the same thing, or is this kind of an outlier? And based on all of this, we then have a special type of database we've created where we're able to query against it to find things that say, you, Peter, if you're interested in the future of prize competitions, you can go in and find news where it's related to the future of prize competitions. You can actively search it. It's not just a stream that's passive that you have to sort of consume in the way it's presented. You can interact with it. And every time you interact with the system, say clicking on an article, reading anything, basically what happens is the system learns from that. It records that. It says, okay, Peter's interested in this. And based on that, the system will continue to make recommendations for you over time, and your feeds will get better and better and better. And because we're not optimizing for, keeping you in the app, looking at ads over time, we end up not propagating all this sensationalized news to you. So we're really just optimizing to provide the maximum utility for the user so that you can understand the future of your industry, your personal interests, and to be able to cultivate an abundance mindset.
If I can add to that, one of the things I love about what's built is it looks for articles around industries that I care about where we're seeing converging technologies. So if it's on shoes, if you search on shoes, if that's the business you're in, you're going to see news articles, journal articles, all kinds of high quality articles around convergence of IoT, Internet of Things, and 5G and 3D printing and sensors around shoes. And so my thesis is that a lot of the most extraordinary progress we're going to see is around the convergence of exponential technologies impacting industries. And so this particularly looks for those convergence. One of the things that Morgan did was it creates a article summary for you that generates a short list of what is it about and why is it important. You can go to the original article, but this is a way where I scan multiple different areas, and I'm just constantly amazed at the quality of what's being surfaced that is much more relevant than all of this negative news. So for example, we rolled out an early version of FutureLoop focused on COVID-19. So instead of all of the death and dying and disaster stories coming in, the COVID-19 version of FutureLoop.com, which if you go to it, you'll see where the column on COVID-19 is all around the solution side of how is CRISPR and gene therapy and AI and big data and 3D printing and VR and AR all being used to solve the pandemic and transform lives positively than all the negative stuff. So it's still exciting. but it's got a mindset that if you're interested in an abundance and exponential mindset, FutureLoop is delivering that. One of the things that we did is we ended up creating something called prediction challenges. And can you speak a little bit about the prediction challenges, what we did there?
Yeah, totally. So there's been a lot of research in recent years into crowd intelligence or collective intelligence. And, you know, if you remember, if you've been following Unanimous, they correctly predicted, what was it, the top 3 Kentucky Derby winners in order, something just unfathomably unlikely. And what people have been doing with different types of collective intelligence is getting a bunch of people together and allowing them all to trade information in different ways so that together they can come to a consensus around some question. Like, you know, when will the lockdowns be lifted that we're all under? Or when will the Dow hit bottom, or has it already? And so what we did was we researched this, and we based a version of this off of a Delphi survey. And what a Delphi survey is you get a bunch of experts together. You ask them a question like, you know, when will the lockdown be lifted? They all share their results, and then anonymously, everyone can look at each other's justifications. So, you know, one expert says, well, you know, Trump will want to lift the lockdown for some political reason. Another expert says, well, you know, the epidemiology states that actually that would be a bad idea, and so policy experts are not going to recommend that. And so after looking at all these justifications, they sort of re-triangulate, and then they vote again. And so what you see is a convergence towards a more truthful value. I was just reading about a use of collective intelligence to predict the weather, which seems odd because they didn't gather a bunch of meteorologists. These are just random people off the street, I believe, in Vienna. And what happened was, if you got enough of these people together, they were just as accurate as the meteorological forecast, which is insane because these are not meteorologists. They're random people who know nothing about the weather. But there's something about humans, when you get them together and have them triangulating around a problem and able to communicate, you get an amazing result. And so we've built a platform where we can create these prediction challenges and have you, our amazing potential user base, come in and participate. And
so how is this? Yeah, how is this different from groupthink? Because I think one of the things that I saw going across the top here was that that groupthink and echo chambers are problematic, and what we've built here is antithetical to groupthink. And can you explain why?
Totally, yeah. So what we do is, as justifications are surfaced, we separate them into what they're voting for. So, you know, if Peter thinks it's going to be 12 months before the lockdown's lifted, and I think it's 1 month, those will actually be displayed separately. So you can see the 2 sides or the 6 sides of any particular challenge that you're trying to answer. So what ends up happening is you end up getting swayed towards the truth and not just towards the group of people who you're associated with who all share the same opinion. And because it's anonymous, people are willing to share their ideas that they might otherwise be hesitant to do so because they're worried about their reputation or they want to fit in. None of that comes into play here. And so you get a really unbiased estimate of what's really happening in the world.
And this is, I'm seeing some of the questions coming across about, is this global and so forth? Yes, this is global. You can participate from any country on the planet. We do get demographic data from you, and then we're able, on the predictions, able to say, listen, people who are novices, this is their prediction. People who are experts, and if you're an expert, we ask you to upload sort of a LinkedIn profile or something that demonstrates your level of expertise, so that people, you know, you don't have someone in 5th grade claiming they're an expert, but you can. I pushed the wrong button and I got kicked out. So welcome back. Sorry, everybody, about that. So my news alerts are just, I'm getting way too many texts per second here. So you can look at it by demographics, by expertise, by age range, and by title and such. It's really fun to be seeing and tapping into the wisdom of crowds, which is a real thing. This is not about echo chambers. Let me ask, before we go starting answering some of the questions here, Morgan, are there other elements about FutureLoop that you want to that you want to raise that you're excited about?
Yeah, totally. So we're at a really unique time in history, actually. So if you look back at how newspaper and media evolved over the years, there's an amazing book, Infamous Scribblers by Eric Burns. It used to be that media wasn't expected to be unbiased. I mean, Ben Franklin, I think in 1730, wrote a bunch of articles in his newspapers about how printing money would be a good thing. He didn't disclose that he would be significantly benefited by that policy, but he would have been. And so it was only once we started getting this oligopoly of just a few news companies controlling the media that people started demanding that there was actually some sort of journalistic ethic. Before that, everyone assumed that the media was incredibly biased. And so my opinion is the media is always going to be biased. There's always going to be bias. So what you have to be able to do is to explore it. And that's why in the prediction challenges, we allow you to look at demographic. You can see, what do artists think versus CEOs? What do experts think versus novices? And with the content that we're providing, we allow you to explore. We're not taking a side. We're not saying, oh, we're only showing you conservative news or liberal news or news that looks like this. We actually provide a much broader sampling of what's out there. And so you can come to your own conclusions, and you can start to control this bias. What you interact with shapes your experience, but not to the extent that you create this echo chamber. And so I think that we're finally, as a society, getting to a point where we recognize everything is going to be biased. We just want some control over it.
Fantastic. So let me hit a couple of questions here. One of the questions is, can you tell us where Ray Kurzweil is? Would love to know what he is thinking about the actual crisis. And can I invite him? And sure, I speak to Ray on a regular basis. He's heads down on Google, but let's see if I can coax him into Instagram. I'm not sure that he's a big Instagram user, but I can ask. We'll try that. So Talia, please make a note, and we'll reach out to him. One of the things, another question I was asked here is, when will we reach the singularity? I will tell you that one of the things that I find amazing is, I just published my book, The Future is Faster Than You Think. And the book is focused on what's going to happen in the next 10 years across every industry as a result of exponential technologies. And one of the things that I'm clear about is that this pandemic is accelerating that transition. It is forcing everybody to digitize, dematerialize, demonetize, and democratize their products and services faster than any time ever in human history. So while this has got some economic slowdowns on supply chains and some things, the analogy that I use is that exponential technology was this massive asteroid impact, equivalent to the asteroid that knocked out the dinosaurs and allowed the agile furry mammals to survive and evolve into us 66 million years ago. There's a second asteroid that's hit the planet, and that asteroid is basically this pandemic, which is accelerating things and moving things faster than any time ever in human history. So, when are we going to reach the singularity is the question. I think it's still on the same schedule, if not a little bit sooner. That estimate was sort of 2040. So 20 years from now, 2045 was the long, so 2040, 2045, somewhere in that, hopefully while all of us are still alive to witness it. But if this feels weird right now, being in lockdown, having this pandemic, having things change so rapidly, we're tasting a small amount of how fast things are going to change as AI starts becoming much more imbued into the social ecosystem, and we see brain-computer interface coming on. Here's the next question is, why not add the agenda of increasing joy to the X Prize? And we actually are working on right now something I call the Happiness X Prize. Can you physiologically measure a person's happiness? And if you can, then if I have a technology like on my watch or my Oura Ring that measures my level of happiness, can I in fact measure it and compare it against my Outlook calendar and say, don't do meetings with those people, do more meetings with Morgan, because I'm super happy when I'm talking with him. So that is another question that comes along. Is Bill Gates evil? Not sure why that's being asked. No, I think Bill, who I know not well, but I think he is he truly has the desire to help the world, but I am super curious on why that person asked that question. But what about curating information in different languages and from different cultures? So right now, FutureLoop is curating globally around the world. Its platform is in English. I mean, the tools for making it multilingual are there, and I think once we start growing it, we can go there. You want anything there on top of
Yeah,
that?
totally, totally. Due to recent advances in machine translation, it's definitely on our roadmap to be able to, for example, scrape all of the numerous Mandarin news sources. And once we're doing that, it would be great to be able to compare and contrast. The system will be more diversely populated with content, and it would be great to be able to read the Mandarin news in English every day. So, great question.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things, if you join FutureLoop and you plug in, there is a button where you can add your thoughts of what you want. So our goal is to build a system that is the most unbiased, but it's biased in the following way. It's not giving you death and dying, negative, the world is ending news. If you want that, go for it. You got it in spades. If you're interested in news that is forward leaning, meaning where are things going, where are the solutions, independent of what side the solutions are coming from or what country it's coming from, and where are we seeing converging exponentials transforming industries, that's what we're trying to provide as an alternate source. And right now it is open and free. It will be. There's some business models that we're thinking of for companies, but I just want to, I built this first and foremost, along with Evan, Pagan, and Morgan. I built this for myself. I built this because I want to have this kind of a capability to look at converging exponential abundance-minded news in any single industry on any single topic, and have a machine learning algorithm globally search. Anyway, so that's what it is. So basically, go to the futureloop.com site and click on the give us your feedback page. Okay, let's see a few other things. Are there people from different countries? We've answered that. Yes, it's global. Are we close to longevity escape velocity? And this concept of longevity escape velocity, and by the way, one of the feeds I have on FutureLoop is on longevity. So I am getting news every single day on breakthroughs on longevity from CRISPR and gene therapy and across the board there. So I love that. The idea of longevity escape velocity is that for every year that we are alive, science is adding some amount of time to your life. And there's going to be a point that for every year that you're alive, science adds more than a year to your life. And that's called longevity escape velocity. It's divergent. Ray's prediction was about 11 to 12 years. Aubrey de Grey was 20 years. What I can tell you is there is, as we're bringing AI into longevity science, and as we start to bring quantum computing, and by the way, the whole pandemic is just bringing more and more money into the whole entire healthcare industry, which is accelerating all of this stuff. So, do I believe it's somewhere between 11 years and 12 and 20 years? I do. And I'm tracking that. Is it a Delphi survey? Again, would you just take a second and talk about what a Delphi survey is? And I'm going to try and go through all of these questions, another 6 or 7, and please ask your questions. We're making note of them. So what's a Delphi survey again, Paul, and how are we doing that?
Yeah, so a Delphi survey is when you get a bunch of experts together and have them all make a prediction about something, like say, when will the Dow hit bottom? Okay, and then what you do is you have each person also provide a justification. So if someone says 2 months, you say, why did you vote 2 months? Then anonymously, you let everyone look at the justifications that everyone else provided. So the entire group can kind of triangulate around a response and re-vote. So you're like, well, maybe it's more like 4 months because there was a really good justification in there for 1 month. And this is how it actually avoids groupthink, is you're exposed to opinions that are different than yours. And so the mean of the entire group converges to an answer that's often very, very accurate. And so it's based on that. We have additional layers, and we're working in machine learning right now into this to surface better justifications and ultimately to be able to make better final predictions So it's a really exciting time to be part of this because it's just ever evolving. You're going to see if you sign up that we're doing different formats every week. We're experimenting rapidly, and also take part in our super forecaster program if you're interested. There's a button on there where you can click, I'm interested in being a super forecaster, and we'll reach out to you and you'll be able to find out how accurate you are at predicting compared to other experts, compared to non-experts. And we're building a lot of functionality around that right now.
Yeah, there will be a group of super forecasters, and this is a real thing that the CIA, the FBI, governments around, there are people who their minds are able to analyze data and make much better predictions than even the experts. And so we will build a large population of super forecasters on the site that will be able to you'll be able to see what do they think about something. Yassas to my friends and family in Greece. All right, so here's a question. What about crowdsourcing profiling of news articles, balanced truth presentations, as Elon Musk suggested with Pravda? Did you see his suggestion on creating a site called Pravda?
I actually didn't. I want to hear about this.
Yeah, so I'm going to read it again. He said, what about crowdsourcing profiling of news articles? And I'm not sure which was typed down properly. Balanced truth presentation. So I think the importance of being able to understand when certain articles are biased and by who, and being able to put a balanced coloring an article one way or another from where it results. So we'll come back to that in a minute. Over unsupervised machine learning algorithms, has FutureLoop enforced a reinforcement learning model to provide tailored or validated articles? Does that make sense of the question to you?
Yeah. So we definitely provide tailored and validated articles in our stream. It's not using reinforcement learning, but it is using other types of deep learning.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Is cryptocurrency the next reserve currency after the US dollar? I don't know, but that's a great prediction challenge that we can put out to the group. When will the 26 million unemployed in the US be back to work? That's another great thing that we can put. We do have a challenge we're planning, which is what will the maximum unemployment rate reach? I think sadly we're far from reaching our bottom here. What is FutureLoop's business model? How do you monetize it? I think right now there may be FutureLoop as a platform inside companies where companies can use the prediction models to make predictions about when their products will come to market and things like that, and about competition. So I'm not worried. I'm funding this out of my own pocket right now, 100%. I'm not worried about revenue, but we're going to experiment with revenue models. But the goal is, I'm just so sick and tired, absolutely sick and tired of this barrage of negative news and biased news that I really wanted to create something that was new and unique and different. How are we engaging other people into sustainability, living standards like plant-based diets, regenerative farming, and permaculture, renewable, decentralized energy use? All of these things are critically important. One of the things that I'm working on is obviously writing about it, blogging about it, but we're launching X prizes about all of these subjects as well. Here's the final result. People do what's in their self-interest. And the only way to change the energy economy is that solar energy is so much cheaper than oil and gas that it's like you'd be an idiot not to use solar, right? And the same thing with electric autonomous cars rather than owning a car. And so a lot of these things are going to become, half of the food on your table half the cost of the food on your table comes from food miles. So if you can produce it locally, if stem cell grown meats are healthier for you, taste better, and are cheaper, that's the way we change the world. I don't depend on government regulations to do that. I expect and depend on entrepreneurs to create products that are better for the world, cheaper for the world, and ultimately move much faster. What is AI doing about finding a cure, a vaccine for COVID-19? There is a lot going on in the AI world. If you go into FutureLoop and just type in COVID-19 and AI, you'll get a slew of articles about that. If we can't if we can't leave outside our atmosphere, how are we planning these space ventures, especially Elon Musk? What's the truth about your perspective? So the whole concept of living outside of the Earth's biosphere includes gravity, atmosphere, radiation levels, all of that the whole concept is called terraforming. And so how do you go someplace and create the Earth-like environment in that place? And so on the moon, it's in contained spheres. On Mars, again, in contained habitats. Eventually, you could terraform Mars. You could make Mars into a more Earth-like environment. And there are amazing books on the whole concept. Just Google terraforming, and you'll see that. But that's what we do. We take environments. If you're living in the United States, the U.S. would have been uninhabitable because of disease and I mean, it's just unfortunately, we do this more than we need to right now, of taking jungles and make them habitable. But we, as humans, we terraform our environments to make them comfortable and habitable, which has been important, but maybe way too much on the other side. How are we going to entice people to contribute? And I guess the question is, contribute to what? People, again, I think you need to make it in people's best self-interest. And when they contribute, they're getting a benefit, and the world is getting a benefit. And that kind of system, we do see that. I think I will live until 160 years old. How long do you think you'll live? All right. So listen, I commend the 160. When I was in medical school, I watched a television show on long-lived sea life, that certain species of whales and sharks and turtles live 200 years, 400 years, 700 years. And I was like, WTF, why can they? Why can't I? And I said, it's either a software problem or a hardware problem. So I set a ridiculous goal of 700 years. Now, I say it's ridiculous because, frankly, if you can live to 160, you can probably live indefinitely, because the breakthroughs coming on, we are a biological system of software and hardware that we're going to understand how to continually reprogram and update. So let's shoot for that 160. How do you feel? Do you feel we are trapped under control within the boundaries of what we can and can't achieve? Also, what are your thoughts on 5G? I love 5G. I'm hoping for 5G. 5G is not causing this pandemic. Let me be absolutely clear about that. It just is not. We've had pandemics way before we had any of this radio frequency stuff. There are issues about increasing the temperature of the planet, encroaching on forests, and rain in jungles that are causing animals to come out. But this is something that happened, unfortunately, naturally. Maybe it came out of a lab in China, but it was a natural development of a virus. It was not man-made. It was not 5G made. When will quantum computing change our internet backbone? There's a lot going on now. The challenge, and I have, for those of you who are part of my Abundance Digital, I have a whole set of courses I've recorded there with Ray Kurzweil, and his view is, listen, quantum computing is coming. We've hit quantum supremacy, but it's meaningless right now because the error rate on quantum computing is way too high. So we're going to have quantum computing really hitting industries like communications, like machine learning, like pharma, material sciences, in the second half of this decade. How can FutureLoop have a positive influence on the election? Interesting question. I haven't heard that. You want to take that one, pal?
Yeah, I think step one is we need to ask the candidates which of them is willing to pay us more money. And then depending on...
No, let's stop that.
Definitely not. So I think providing a source of news that's not biased along political lines starts to do that. Because as you see what's potentially possible in the future with AI, quantum computing, sensors, 3D printing, robotics, what people are actually doing to solve this pandemic, for example, it kind of reorients your mindset and you start thinking, okay, which candidate could I elect that would pursue these technologies more aggressively so that we can relieve, more suffering around the world? And so I think that we're inherently doing that by not biasing our coverage along political lines.
What is the forecasting used for? It's used by anyone who participates. You get to see the results and use it for what you want. I'm using it to think about the future, to see diverse points of view. It's used to generate conversation. We are building Facebook groups around each of these topics. There's a COVID-19 Facebook group that has the prediction challenges in there. And because the prediction challenges have the optimistic and the pessimistic points of view, it spurs a really diverse conversation that I find fascinating. Here's one for you. How do you crowdsource news articles? Are we crowdsourcing news articles here? And how would you?
Yeah, so we're not crowdsourcing news articles. We go out and we scrape the internet sort of like Google does. We have a crawler that goes out and collects 500,000-ish articles per day from a diverse collection of news sources. Crowdsourcing news is definitely possible, and FutureLoop has the capability for anyone to be able to plug in a URL and add that to the system. But for now, we're just relying on the AI to go out and find the content. And that's one of the reasons why the content is less biased.
Where can I contribute? I see some objective room for improving the website accessibility, for example.
Totally, yeah. So if you have any suggestions, feel free to shoot them over to morgan@futureloop.com. And I'd love to hear about ways that we can make the site more accessible, easy to use, and intuitive.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, can we build something that adds value to people's lives? Because I do believe the way we get news needs to be reinvented, other than this, to a large sense, addictive negative news. It's an addiction and this entertainment for some people, unfortunately. What about the ethical frameworks and conundrums in FutureLoop?
Yeah, so I think in many cases, ethical conundrums come up because people are trying to report news from a certain perspective, or they're trying to stick to a particular line of thinking. And FutureLoop, because we don't have those biases, because we don't have a newsroom of reporters who are trying to report on anything in a certain way, we're able to surface a lot of different perspectives. And I think that's a great way to be able to sort of calibrate and triangulate your position in the world.
Yeah, first of all, yes, it's Morgan, Morgan, @futureloop.com. Awesome, Morgan. I love to see what people send as recommendations. But here's a question, right? When you pick up the newspaper, or when you're watching Fox or CNN or MSNBC and so forth, you're allowing some person that you have no idea who they are to decide what goes into your brain. I mean, it blows me away that people let that happen. It's like, honestly, your mindset is the most important thing that you have, right? I mean, your mindset, if you're optimistic, if you're hopeful, that's one mindset. If you're pessimistic and, hiding into the coverage, it's another mindset. And the news media can play our mindset like a fine violin. And you let them do that? I mean, they could not pay me enough to do that. Honestly, it blows me away that people just sit there like glued to the set, death, dying, everything. It's like, holy shit. It's like, stop. Take a news media diet. You don't, give yourself 30 minutes a day of news if you need to have it, or set, if you don't use FutureLoop, fine. It's there for you as a resource. Set some Google News alerts. Do you really think something is going to go on in the world that your social circle in some way doesn't notify you about, if it's critical for you to know? Listen, I just don't want to hear about one more time about injecting bleach in my body. Okay. Anyway. All right. All right. What's the progress with the Calico Labs? Calico is Google's longevity labs, and they are super secretive. So the answer is don't know. What about adults who made bad decisions throughout their lives and are now disenfranchised from society and getting a decent job? How can they be helped? Listen, I think one of the things is a rising tide raises all boats. I do think that we're going to end up in some version of universal basic income. We are effectively doing that right now through these stimulus checks that are going out. We're redistributing wealth, but we need to be doing that when we have the economy actually running at high speed. And one of the things that's important, and this is what exponential technologies can do, they can start to allow individuals who have made bad decisions, who didn't have the same opportunities as you or I did, to be able to partner with AI and partner with exponential technologies to take their learning and their abilities to a next level. So instead of getting a job because it's the only job you can get, and you need to put food on the table of your family and get health insurance for your family, that puts you in a job that you hate and it's not upwardly mobile. How do you instead partner with AI and augmented reality, right? Where you put on AR glasses, you go into a facility, and that AR, there's an AI AR combination teaching you, pick this up, combine it with this thing, do that, and you are all of a sudden learning a skill while doing. I mean, and we're working on an X Prize around the idea of upskilling and upworking people. Is nanotech and biotech advanced enough to solve this virus? Not yet, but I think I hope and pray we're going to see a lot of capital going into nanotech. It's not there yet. Biotech is. I'm involved. One of the companies I'm a co-founder of, vice chairman of, is a company called Kovacs, which I love. It's COVAXX. It's blood antibody testing, and we're building a massive vaccine plant right now for a new type of vaccine. It's chemistry, not biology. You can go to Kovacs and learn more about it. But yeah, I'm a big believer that the combination of technologies that we now have access to are going to give us a shot at slaying this virus, and also truly making sure we don't have this again. I think of this as a practice pandemic. It could have been a lot worse. And by the way, we still don't know the biology of this virus. This virus is not creating as high an antibody titer as we want for protection. We've seen 30 mutations of this virus as well. So the game is not over yet by any stretch. Peter and Morgan, have you some white things in your ears? Yes, we have some white things in our ears. These are this is just to give better audio to you with less echo. When will the economic crisis end? So I was on a call this morning with a group of really knowledgeable people, and the answer was no one truly knows, but this may be a prolonged 2-year up and down, up and down. If you look at the prediction challenge we did, it was prediction challenge, I think, number 2, and you can go to just futureloop.com challenge 2, I think, to see it. Was on when was the and I think people expect that the markets will bottom out once we see second quarter earnings reports in early June. So I think June is when people think we're going to get hit again and hit a bottom. But the worst I've seen is expect another 20 to 30% drop. Maybe, maybe not. Again, I'm not an expert in this, but that's, again, just passing along what I've heard. What is the percent of Chinese and Indian users on FutureLoop? Any idea, Morgan?
Yeah. So the majority of our users come from US, Canada, Mexico, Europe, and Australia, New Zealand. We have some users from Russia, India, and China, though, probably less than 3%, I'd say.
Yeah. And so, listen, we haven't promoted this. I've just actually shared FutureLoop with my social media and list because we're in beta. We're just trying to get everything working smooth. And yeah. Okay. When's the best time to buy real estate? Are prices going to drop soon? I think so. Prices are going to drop because, frankly, people can't afford, and we're going to see a lot of defaults. It's sad. There's an opportunity fund I just heard about from a friend of mine who's going to go find the best real estate on beachfronts and so forth that can't afford to make their payments and are going into default and buy those. Like anything else, it's really location. And one of the things that's going to be hit, guys, you should realize this, is going to be commercial real estate, right? I know a large number of companies, because we've learned that we can do our business on Zoom and other platforms that are coming, that are saying, do we really need office space? And are cutting back their office space by a large amount. So we're going to see I think commercial real estate really get slammed hard here. Is 5G safe? So listen, let's differentiate two sides of 5G. Number one, is it causing this pandemic? I can clearly say I believe 100% with all my heart and my soul. The answer is no. Is it safe? I don't know. I depend on OSHA. Is it safe, for example, on putting that level of radiation, those frequencies next to your brain and such? I think there's enough labs out there doing the work to be able to give us some level of safety, but we will find out. I hope it's safe, because a lot of our future from VR and computing on the edge of the cloud and augmented reality and all of that is going to depend on 5G. When do you think the cost of solar will go down and be acceptable for everyone? So it's already down low enough. It's cost of storage that needs to come down. We're seeing already the cost of solar in different parts of the Middle East and in South and Central America at prices as low as 1.6 cents per kilowatt hour, where coal and natural gas is at 4 cents, 5 cents, 6 cents per kilowatt hour. So it's that cheap. The storage price needs to come down. And I'm seeing stuff like the work of Bill Gross with a company you can Google called Energy Vault, which is bringing the price of storage to 2 cents per kilowatt hour, at which point it is really valuable. But I think we're going to see a price way below a penny this decade, and storage will continue to improve. What do you think about CRISPR tech? I'm so excited about CRISPR technology solving disease, giving us the tools to really understand how to cure 80% of the genetic ailments out there. It used to be if you had a genetic disease in your family, you were rolling the dice if it was a dominant or recessive gene. Now you can start to think about getting rid of that scourge and solving your germline forever. So that's my belief. There's lots of reasons. Do we have to use it responsibly, ethically? Of course. Can it help us even with pandemics? Absolutely. Can it help us with every aspect of our biology world? Yes. What about social media addiction? Any advice? Morgan, any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think a lot of social media addiction comes from the same place as news addiction. It's just you get addicted to your amygdala being activated. And so if you can expose yourself to other sources of interesting, meaningful content, like from FutureLoop, or maybe you find the right subreddit, or you go to Facebook and find a Facebook group, and we're putting together a Facebook group actually right now, focused on high quality content, you can get the same sort of dopamine hit, but it's not coming from a place where you're entrenching these patterns of being drawn into someone else's agenda.
Yeah, and thank you for the love out there for this conversation, for the work that I and Morgan and my entire team do. Listen, if you believe the world is screwed and it's never going to get better, and oh my God, I missed the good old days and so forth, remember that we're living in the most extraordinary time ever. Yes, we are dealing with this pandemic, and we are going to crush it and come out the other side stronger than ever before. After the 2008 crisis, the number of entrepreneurs that created incredible companies like Airbnb and Uber and WhatsApp and Venmo and 100 others, right? Now is the time, if you're an entrepreneur, to create an extraordinary future for yourself, and we will get there. Morgan, question. I'm noticing a lot of fake Instagrams, fake IDs, fake Facebook, fake news, fake everything. How do we deal with that? How do we prevent that?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you consider this long term, there's always going to be bad actors putting out misinformation. I mean, there has been for thousands and thousands of years. So what you need tools and people that are capable of filtering through it to find the signal in the noise. And that's what we're building FutureLoop to do. So FutureLoop's, the first of what's probably going to be many tools that are coming out to help people as individuals sift through this. In the long term, this is something that your personal AI, whether that's your FutureLoop AI or Alexa or Google Assistant, whatever, will be helping you with, because it's going to be able to cross-reference more sources than you'll ever be able to. And it's going to be able to help you sense make and figure out what's actually going on in the world.
And again, thank you for your notes of gratitude. I'm super grateful as well. Morgan, how can someone get into the Facebook group? I'm seeing a few of those questions out there.
Yeah, so if you go to, and I'll send this link over to Talia, maybe we'll put this up as well. But if you just search on Facebook for FutureLoop, and currently our group's focused around COVID-19. So if you search for FutureLoop COVID on Facebook, our group will pop up.
And it's about the good news around it. It's how it's being solved, how our technologies, converging to slay this particular pandemic.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we'll be able to take someone's transplanted kidney and replace back with their own stem cells. So I'm writing this book with Tony Robbins called Life Force. It's all about what's going on in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 clinical trials. I just spent on Friday 2.5 hours with one of the most incredible scientists, engineers, George Church at Harvard Medical School, talking about how one of his companies he's working on to create an infinite supply of organs. So there's so much amazing stuff coming. One of the areas that you can use your own stem cells, one other area you can do is the term is called humanizing a pig. Where you take a pig and you humanize its cell surface antigens so that you can, we right now grow pigs for pork and bacon and so forth, but imagine if you count the number of pigs, there's like billions of pigs on this planet. It's crazy. It's a planet of chickens and pigs and cows. But you could transplant a pig organ, which has the same size and functionality as a human organ, and without having any kind of rejection at all. Do we become immune if we get COVID-19 and recover? So the answer is we don't know yet, honestly. The results my science team is seeing is that people do recover and they have some immunity, but the immunity levels are low. We're not sure if you have some people get super immune levels and some people get low immunity levels, and that can be measured, and I think that's going to become part of an immunity card, as you're seeing from the World Health Organization, isn't sufficient. It may need to be an immunity card at a certain level of immunity. Is there a topic you're most focused on to benefit with answers and predictions on FutureLoop? It's been mostly around COVID-19, but we're going to be doing prediction challenges on the future of transportation and AI and all of the topics on healthcare and education, all of these topics. Any suggestions on how to build a growth mindset and enforce growth habits? Yeah, one big suggestion is, who do you talk to? What do you read? What news programs, what social media do you listen to? The old saying is, if you're obese and you want to get thin, hang out with thin people. If you're not strong and you want to get stronger, hang out with strong people, right? You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So shape your community now more than ever before, because we're living in a digital community. So it's easier to select a digital community. So decide what you let into your mind. Your mindset matters. It is the most valuable thing that you have, is your mindset. Individually, how can we help contribute to mobilize the FutureLoop movement? Great question. Morgan, do you want to,
Yeah. I mean, your feedback is gold to us right now, because we're in a phase of rapid iteration. So if you see an application for FutureLoop where you think, oh, I just wish FutureLoop could do this, or can FutureLoop do that, please send that to us, because our platform may be able to do a lot of the things that you want it to do. And knowing what is important to you will help us prioritize that in our development pipeline. So that's the number one thing I can think of.
Yeah, and selfishly, help us get more people on the platform. We're at, I think, 37,000 people on the platform
Yep.
right now, which has grown sort of without anything. But tell your friends, go to futureloop.com. You'll get a prompt to subscribe by normal means. We ask people to subscribe so that they can become part of the challenges. By the way, I didn't even mention this. When you subscribe to this, you'll get an end-of-day email every day. So we send you an email at the end of the day with the top news. Here's the top positive-minded breakthroughs in COVID-19. And you can customize and say, I'm interested in healthcare, education, transportation, whatever, and you'll get the top news on those topics. And so it's every day. Right now it's 5 days a week. Maybe we'll go to 7 days a week, but it's every day. It's an email that I love getting. Yeah.
Totally.
So will you crowdfund FutureLoop? We're not looking for funding right now. I mean, we're just looking to get a user base. Morgan is such a rock star. He does the work. We're an exponential organization. We have one employee. I mean, it's honestly, we have one employee and a whole slew of GPUs on the cloud that does this work. So, I mean, you want to talk about an exponential organization? You're looking at him. What industries should governments invest in to successfully diversify their economies in a highly oil-dependent jurisdiction? I think, honestly, you guys know the answer there if you've read any of my books. I'm backing software as a service companies, which is what we are, solar companies. How do you digitize, dematerialize, demonetize, and democratize your products and services? So, all right, I'm going to wrap up there so we can end on the hour and make sure we can save this thing. Morgan, thank you for your time, pal. Always grateful.
Thank you. Amazing.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I'm going to try and do at least one of these. I'm going to be doing another Instagram Live with John Scully coming up, the past CEO of PepsiCo and Apple. And love your suggestions on who we should be doing Instagram Lives with. Rick Kurzweil, I heard that. I'll try that as well. All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you, Talia.
Awesome.
See you guys. Bye.